Hey guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. I'm here with my trusted partner Elijah Weintraub. Eli, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's going to be a great week. We have a great show today, a lot to talk about,
Yep.
and we're already starting off with a comment from Martin. He says, "Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for watching."
Good morning, Marty. Marty's one of my dear friends and loyal listener of the show. Thanks for joining us, Marty. Today's February 22nd, 2025. Eli, we were just talking about it before the show. The year's already almost 2 months in. It's kind of crazy, but
It's very crazy, and we know February's fast as always. It's one of the
I
faster
know.
months because it's the shorter
Yep.
month.
And of course, we always start our show off with the Mono-Logue, which is always sponsored by Coriano Trucking of Summerhill, New York. And first and foremost, I wanted to apologize to our loyal listeners because we had some technical issues last week, which you and I both can't figure out why, but
Beyond our control.
it was beyond our control. But I think we got a nice stable platform and we got a really good show to get to. So
Absolutely.
apologies to our audience. Eli,
Absolutely.
so the Mono-Logue is might be a little bit surprising to some of our listeners, but it's LeBron James. And LeBron James, and why is it LeBron James? Because this guy's 40 years old. And, I'm not a religious NBA guy anymore. I certainly do understand the game. I know who the players are, but, I watched him score 40 points the other night, who's the only other player besides Michael Jordan to score 40 points at 40 years old. This guy seems like he's got a body like a 25-year-old, and he doesn't appear to be slowing down. It's really, I'm not a big LeBron James. I don't like the fact that he has so much influence over the NBA and stuff. So I'm just talking strictly as a basketball player. This guy, I mean, he's been in the league for now over 20 years, and he's still one of the top three players in the NBA. And I would love for people to hear thoughts because some people are saying he's slowing down. Well, I watched him score 40 points the other night, and it didn't look like he was slowing down one bit. So,
Well, to me, I think with LeBron James, it all depends on the day. One day you could see him be like the greatest player in NBA history. The next day, it looks like he just needs to retire. That's what it seems like with LeBron James. It's a wishy-washy situation. And I think he obviously came out strong. I mean, look at the All-Star break. He didn't play. He was scheduled to play in the All-Star game. He was top number one pick with the mini draft that they had on TNT.
yeah.
And look what they do. He doesn't even play it. He makes excuse stuff. Listen, I understand the NBA All-Star game was a joke. It was horrible. You don't get hurt in it. They barely even tried in that All-Star game. You're telling me he couldn't play that game?
I know.
That's what gets me annoyed, where it's like you don't want to be committed to that. If you're not going to be committed to that, come on. What are you committed to? Just making money off of a silly game that
Right.
you
And a
could get
lot of
like.
people,
And
yeah.
now, when I mean by silly game, I mean just going out one day, oh, let's just put up 40 points. The next day, we'll just go off, put 0 points off. But then, oh, we'll lose to the Hornets, but then we'll win against another team, you know?
Yeah. And it doesn't, listen, it in no way um, dismisses the fact that if you ask me and you ask the majority of NBA players or fans, and Michael Jordan is still the greatest basketball player, but
100%.
this guy
No
is
question.
probably maybe number two. And I'm a Larry
No.
Bird, I'm a Kareem,
Well,
I'm all those guys. I watched all of them
I think I
play.
would put Kobe in front. I don't know. I think I could
Yeah,
put
you
Kobe.
could move around, but you can't. Nobody could take over number one. Somebody has to be the number one, and that's
Michael
Michael Jordan.
Jordan is number one, and I don't think there was any question about it. I don't think we should even be discussing that because that's number one, no question about it. You
Agreed.
can make an argument for LeBron to be top five. I can make an argument about Steph Curry being top five. I could definitely do that
Yeah, from a
because I could
shooter
tell you
perspective, yeah,
from the
no
shooter
doubt.
perspective, absolutely. I mean, he's the greatest 3-point shooter of all time. He breaks records. He won many championships with the Golden State Warriors, more than
Yep,
LeBron could say he has done. You know, no question asked. Steph
yep,
Curry, I could put in front, no problem.
yeah. Well, that's always up for debate. I would love for people to give comments of what you think, but like I said, I will never waver from Michael Jordan B, but I still am impressed with this guy's stamina, and his athleticism is just remarkable. So
Absolutely.
a surprise to some, bringing up the NBA as our monologue, but it,
Yeah. I mean, that was, I think, the second time this month that we've done that.
yeah,
Because I think like 2 weeks ago, I had the monologue about that, the NBA All Star game, and then here we are. So see,
yeah.
it's working.
Well, okay, so let's move on and let's start with what I thought was just an absolute brilliant move by the NHL to do this
Beautiful,
Four
incredible.
Nations tour. And I mean, I know guys that they're sports fans, but they're not necessarily hockey
Hockey
fans,
fans, and they
and,
watched it.
and they watched it. Yes, that's how
Yes.
much intensity there was for this
You know how
thing. And
you know how I knew it was a big deal when every single ESPN show that was on throughout the week talked about hockey. When the
yep,
main coverage is usually about football, even if it's off season, and the NBA, because we all know that's what they love to talk about on those morning shows
you're
at
right.
ESPN. And to talk about hockey for more than 10 minutes, that was insane. But what
You bet.
made this Four Nations face-off special, and I'm going to use those four words. These players showed pride, glory, commitment, and honor when they played and wore those jerseys, whether it
Yep,
was wearing the red, white, and blue in the USA or wearing red and white in the Maple Leaf in Canada. Each of those four players showed pride and they showed honor and commitment. And I think that is something that we've never seen before in just a made up tournament that was so
yeah.
successful.
Maybe
And
since
the best part is
1980, the Olympic team. Yeah,
we don't even know if this is coming back. But we know for sure it will. But how will it be implemented? Because the reason why I say this because next year the Olympics are on. The Winter Olympics are here. The
yep.
NHL takes part in the Winter Olympics. So the question is, do they do this Four Nations still with the Olympics coming up, or do they just focus on the Olympic coverage? That is
Well,
the question that is going to be up for debate for next year. But I can tell you this right now: watching this game, all these games were incredible. They had 10 million people watch it. The
yep,
championship, when they gave out the gold medals and trophies, the Sing Canada, oh Canada once more at the final time, I got chills, literally.
yeah.
And I know I'm a Canadian, I'm American, but to hear it just and how everybody just united together was incredible.
Sure
That's what
was.
made it special. You had clips from Miracle. You had the Chuck brothers fight within 9 seconds twice, three fights in 9 seconds in the regular game between
Yep.
Canada and US. That's how special it was. It really was incredible to see.
You know what? There's one thing that you got to worry about, Eli, because this was so popular and so outstanding that now we got to go back to the regular season, and I think people are going to be a little bit, the
Disappointed.
right, little bit disappointed that this could possibly diminish viewership of the NHL. Maybe not, once we get to
The
the
playoffs is a different
playoffs
story.
and so forth. But yeah, that was just a great moment in
It was
sports. It
great.
really was. And
Now I know another question I want to bring up is: do you think it lived up to a Game 7 Stanley Cup final, quality? Because
one
that's what
hundred
everybody was
percent,
thinking about. And you
one
agree with
hundred
that?
percent. Yep.
Dude,
I mean,
now
I mean, you had the greatest players in the world on both teams, right? When you look at the NHL, yes, the majority of players are either from the U.S. or Canada.
correct.
So, the Finland and Sweden teams, not necessarily, a lot of household names unless you're a hockey fan. But no question about it. It was a brilliant idea, and it took off. And I hope everybody watched Game 7 because it didn't disappoint. And you know,
Yeah.
how fitting for Connor McDavid to score the
To
winning
score the
goal. Right,
final
he's
goal.
probably the
Yeah.
best player in the league right now, and
Absolutely. He
hard
just
to believe that
showed it
he's
right
been
there.
in this league 10 years already. I mean, it just seemed like he was the up and coming rookie. Remember?
It's incredible. It really was. And they're praising him. It's amazing. I really do love it. Now, the biggest question that we've left out of this Four Nations was, well, not only will it come back, because it definitely will come back, but just in what way? But the other question is, what do the other sports groups out there do about it? We noticed that the NBA had the worst viewership for All-Star Weekend just a few weeks ago. and really was a horrible event. I mean, look, Victor Wembanyama with the Spurs, they were just throwing balls around like nothing. They even attempt to try any of the obstacles in the skills competition. The NFL
Right.
didn't do it exactly the greatest move. They just started putting flags on players and doing flag football. MLB, it's all right. It could be a little better. But what do these other groups have to do to live up to an NHL standard? And that's hard to think about, that they have to now look at an NHL model to say, well, look, are we going to have US versus the world, US versus different countries like Canada? What do they do? I mean, this is the new format that we have to look at now.
Yeah, and if you look at it, there's not a lot of options for the NBA like there is in the NHL, because there are so many players from each country. So you can't pull that off in the NBA. I don't know what the NBA could salvage and live
Yeah, they
up to
could
that.
salvage something. I mean, they could do like almost like a four nations, USA, Canada, maybe European countries like France, or I don't know what else you could possibly throw out there.
Yeah,
But
well, that's
I
what
mean, will
you
it
know.
be
What?
will it be the
Yeah,
same hype as the NHL? No, because the NHL just pulled it off in a phenomenal way.
they did.
But I don't think NBA could live up to that standard. Maybe they could try, definitely could try, but I don't know.
And look, at least the NFL realized that nobody's going to watch the Pro Bowl game itself. So they
Regardless, so they
tried
gave up.
something, right? So they tried the skills challenge or whatever. And in Major League Baseball, they have the World Baseball Classic now, which doesn't attract some of the top players in the
Right,
game like the NHL did. This was just an absolute well done,
well
great
deserved.
move by Gary
They're
Bettman
brilliant,
and the
brilliant.
minds of the NHL. Great job. Great job.
To say that Gary Bettman did something right is incredible. Congrats to the
I know.
NHL. Whoever did that, you deserve a raise, and I'm going to send you to Hawaii. That's for sure.
You
We're
bet.
going to get you a trip somewhere.
Right.
The other new from the NHL before we move off, tomorrow's Oilers Panthers game, originally scheduled for ESPN Plus, will no longer be an exclusive game to ESPN Plus. It's going to go to their local channels and will begin at 7 o'clock. Instead, ESPN Plus will have as their exclusive game Flyers Penguins at 7:30. You could also watch that game on Disney Plus and Hulu.
Yep. Good update there. All right. So listen, let's move on. We gave our kudos to the NHL. They pulled it off and it was just great. You know what, Eli, what would have been great? To interview Connor McDavid and say, what are you going to do next? And say, I'm going to
You're going
Disney
to
World.
Disney World. Unfortunately, there is no Disney World in Canada, but that
Right.
is a great.
Right, but I think Disney missed the boat there. They should have done that.
I
Knowing
know
that
they should
were
have
gonna
done that. I know, but the
right.
problem is they had 24 hours and they're playing again. They're playing today. The NHL returns today. They have a doubleheader, ABC, and then the
Yep,
rest of the games happen. I mean, another day off would have been great, but
yep,
what are you gonna do?
that was good.
Guess
Great
you got to go
job.
back to NHL hockey. But yeah,
Yep. All right, so let's move on. It's
let's go
spring
to MLB.
training, and that means baseball season is upon us, right? We got a lot of stuff going on in Major League Baseball. You're hearing things about uh, right down the road. They're going to do this automatic, challenge, balls and strikes, and I don't know how that's going to fly. I know they're testing
Well,
it in the minor leagues now, but
I mean, it seems like with the MLB, when they implement new rules, it kind of works. I mean, look at the pitch clock. When the pitch clock came in, yeah, there was a little bit of debate, like, why a pitch clock? We don't need it. It's going to ruin baseball. It changed baseball so much in a new way. It's like
I
these new
like it.
rules, these new implications. Me too. Like, it's changing the game, and I think I like that a lot. So
Yep.
hopefully, this works out. And it seems like any new rule they put in, it works. We saw the pitch clock work. We're going to see this work out eventually.
Yeah. So they're tweaking some of the rules, but that's okay. So when you look at Major League Baseball, you look at the offseason and what the Dodgers did, they signed some of the, a couple more Japanese players and so forth. The payroll's starting to get a little crazy. Soto's getting 700 million, but Major League Baseball, what's the biggest topic of the day is the Yankees facial
And the
hair
fake hair.
policy. And this goes way back to George Steinbrenner. And I always wondered why nobody challenged that, or the union said, wait a minute, you can't tell us we can't wear a beard on the team. And George Steinbrenner said, it's my team. Of course I can. If you don't want to shave, then you can't play for the New York
The
Yankees.
Yankees. You can't wear the pinstripes. Absolutely.
Right. So they waited for George Steinbrenner to pass away. His son now is kind of changing with the time. So we're going to see, hopefully, it's a well-groomed beard, meaning they're not going to have hair down like the Boston Red Sox or the Mets and all these other
Ah,
guys. I mean, I always thought that was what distinguished the New York Yankees from everybody else. And some guys didn't actually come to play for the Yankees because they refused to shave their beard. I
okay.
know it
Here's
seems a little trivial, but that was kind of one of the lasting legacies of certainly George Steinbrenner, and of course the Yankees were the last to do it. Even if you look at all these baseball stadiums, right? They're sponsored by some corporate conglomerate, and what is where the Yankees play? It's still called Yankee Stadium. So
yeah.
I
Well, I
would
just
love
got to
for
want.
people.
My first thing is this is your concern right now, not about the state of the team, not about anything else. Let's just focus on the facial hair. Are we kidding me?
I
This
know.
is the New York Yankees. This is what this is a team that is a staple in the Major League Baseball world. If you think of MLB baseball, and if you're not a Yankee fan, if you're not a MLB fan in general, you're going to know the two teams and the three teams in the MLB. That is the Mets, the Yankees, and the Dodgers. Those are the top three teams that come to mind when you think of Major League Baseball. That's not just because we're in the New York area and I'm saying that, but it's the truth. You
Yep.
think of the Mets, you think of the Yankees, you think of the Dodgers, and there is no question next. And now we're going to this. They had a 20-minute press conference yesterday about
I
this.
know.
I mean,
So,
come on, what are we doing here?
I know.
Meanwhile, Aaron Boone, he gets himself a new contract to stay with the Yankees. But hold on, let's not worry about that. And with the current state of the team and why we didn't make it to and to impress our fans in the World Series. But let's focus on the facial hair. Come on, really?
I
I
know.
am
I
just
know. And you just brought that up, that a lot of people have been texting me about whether or not to um, extend Aaron Boone's contract, and I tell people, look, yeah, they haven't produced a World Series, but he didn't, he
it's not
wasn't the
his fault
one.
entirely.
Right, exactly. If you look at it, the guy averages probably close to 100 wins a season, which is outstanding. And it's not his fault that Aaron Judge didn't hit in the playoffs and so
Right.
forth. And but yeah,
But one person I think it's Aaron Judge, and I've said this time after time. Aaron Judge has to leave the New York Yankees, and I think
yep,
that is going to be their key to success. I've said this a long time ago. I know many fans are going to disagree with me, but in the regular season, he produces. He does home runs. He gets everything you could possibly ask for. But when it comes time for the postseason, to fail like that, to not barely get a home run, strikeouts constantly, and
uh-huh.
not have success, is that what you really want on your team?
I know, but you know what? At least he gets you there, and you have a chance.
Okay,
And
great. You get there, but not making it. Is it the whole point of playing baseball to get to the championship, to make it to the conference chance, to make it to the final two, to win the World Series? Isn't that the goal? Or is the goal just to go out there and have fun? Because if that's the case, then this is the MLB, this is the NBA, where we're just going out there, we're just going to shoot a ball and call it a day, get $60 million for it.
I could see your point here. A couple other things. It's kind of ironic that all this time that Stanton's been with the Yankees, he's got a lot of criticism. He misses games. He's actually already hurt, so he's probably not going to be available for opening day. That we criticized him, but he came up big in the playoffs, and Aaron Judge didn't. So it was kind of a flip
Yeah.
flop for those two guys. But it should be a good thing. A couple other quick notes in Major League Baseball. Mike Trout, right? Considered maybe one of the best center fielders of all time, is now going to switch to right field. And that's supposed to, I'm not sure I understand the rationale behind that,
Right.
because when you play either left field or right field, you have the potential, right? You have to deal with the walls down the sidelines, right? Down the foul lines,
Right.
and the fence in the over the the outfield and so forth. So there's more opportunity to get hurt, I think, playing left or right field than it is in center field. So I don't
I agree.
understand the move, but he's been battling injury after injury after injury for years. If this guy was healthy his entire career, we'd be
Well,
talking about
skyrocketing.
him in the same discussions with the great baseball players of all time.
No question.
You know, and
No
he's a
question.
Jersey kid, by the way.
Absolutely.
So
Another note I want to bring up at the MLB, ESPN and MLB mutually agreed to end their TV deal after this season. The MLB on ESPN was home to Sunday Night Baseball, select regular season games, and of course, Wild Card Weekend. This comes after the MLB is accepting cheaper packages from
mhm.
Apple and Roku and many other companies. The current deal was supposed to go through till 2028, and it kind of makes sense. Right now, if you turn on a TV for ESPN programming, they're not talking about baseball. They're talking about the NBA. They're talking now about the NHL. They're talking about NFL. They're not really
Right.
talking about the NFL. This is not what it used to be. And if you look at the ratings aren't what they used to be. You look at
Mhm.
Wild Card Weekend when it comes time, and they have those 3 games on that network. They
Yep.
barely talk about it for 5 minutes. They talk about it for a minute, and they get off the airways for
Yep.
the MLB. So it
Yep.
makes sense that they have to move along here, and the cost, it is too expensive. It made sense for them to part ways. Is it going to hurt the MLB? In some aspects, yes, but in most aspects, not really. I mean, unfortunately, if this sport was at a popular level right now, I would say it's going to affect them. But right now, MLB is not in its super prime level where they need ESPN. Like,
Yeah.
it'll be okay to let them go.
You have some great players and so forth. So that carries it on, and it won't diminish its popularity. But yeah, it's a long, long season, so people don't, tune in, in the early parts of the season like they do in the postseason. And you see situations now with the free agency, and this little tidbit was interesting that the Red Sox, who did a great job in the offseason, uh, they should be a formidable team again by signing Bregman. But now you have the controversy of Rafael Devers, who says, I'm the third baseman. I don't want to play second base. So, this is the kind of
Absolutely.
NBA mentality that is now infused in the game of
Implemented.
baseball. And if you look at Rafael Devers, he's a beast at the plate, but he's also one of the worst, committed the most errors among third basemen in the past 5
No
seasons.
question.
So
Absolutely.
hard to believe.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Major League Baseball is coming soon, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And when we talk about the tradition of the New York Yankees, I mean, it starts and ends. They got 27 World Championships throughout their history, which is remarkable. But when
Yeah.
you're in a drought and you haven't won one since what, 2009, I think, right?
Yeah.
That's a big
2009 was the last one. I mean, they
that's
made
a
it this
long
year, but they did not execute.
Yep. Um,
There's some
anyway,
factors.
so let's see what the $700 million man produces for the Mets, right? This is the
That's the main
theory.
question.
This is the same theory that the New York Jets had, right? We're going to
There's
sign
a
Aaron
curse.
Rodgers and we're going to go win a Super Bowl. And now the Mets say, we're going to sign Juan Soto and we're going to win the World Series. Well,
Yeah, okay, sure.
doesn't
I
necessarily
believe
work
it
that way.
when I see it. Pete Alonso
Exactly.
already got hurt. He got hit in the ball in Florida at the
Yeah.
spring training. It was on
Yep.
ABC the other day.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
It's hilarious. We're giving out cars because of you got the number 22.
I know.
I talked about you. Where's my car? I'm waiting. I'm waiting for my car. Still not here yet.
Well, Eli, when we're big and we have the Sports with Mono and Mono show on ESPN, I'll buy you a car, my friend. How about that?
All right. Okay. I'm not saying I'm safe from like Juan Soto and stuff because it seems like that's just
All
what
right.
we do.
Listen, so let's move on. So now with the whole NFL season over, and now it becomes college basketball, which is as exciting as can be. I love college basketball way more than the NBA. The thing that's a little disheartening is you see guys like Cooper Flagg, who's this phenom. He's a one and done guy. So the landscape of college basketball is a little bit different because these guys don't stay around for 4 years like they did back in the 70s and 80s. And you and I were talking earlier on about Seton Hall. When they were in the championship game in
Right in
college
1989.
basketball. 1989. Um, but it's exciting, and you got great players always. And you got Auburn, the Alabama, the Floridas, and I told somebody keep an eye on Michigan State because I'm a big Tom Izzo fan. He's got a
Yes.
and they're starting to play. They won a big game last night against Michigan, so they take over the Big Ten lead. But college basketball it gets more and more exciting as we approach March Madness, and I'm excited to see it.
Absolutely. Now we got some big games today happening. I'm super excited for March Madness. Here are the big games I want to go look into real quick for this week. For the men's, at 12 o'clock on ESPN, Tennessee, Texas A&M. 2 o'clock today, ESPN, Iowa State, Houston. Georgia, Auburn at 4 o'clock on ESPN. And 6 o'clock, ESPN, Kentucky, Alabama. And 8 o'clock on Fox, Duke, Illinois. Over on the women's side for tomorrow's big games. The 4 big games to watch out for. 12 o'clock on ESPN, Notre Dame, North Carolina State. Big game there. On ESPN 2 at 12 o'clock. West Virginia University versus TCU. 2 o'clock ESPN, North Carolina, Louisville. And 4 p.m. ESPN, LSU, Kentucky. 4 big women's games out there. And the 5 big games over on the men's side of things.
Yeah, but college basketball is exciting, and I love it. And when you look at for example, Kansas, right? Always a powerhouse, always a top team. Like what has happened to them? What has happened to UConn after 2 consecutive national championships? They've been struggling all year. So the field is always wide open in college basketball. That's what makes it so exciting.
Special.
Like last week, the big game was Auburn, Alabama, right?
Correct.
And I watched the entire game, and it looked like Auburn was going to blow them out. Alabama comes back, keep it close. Ultimately, Auburn pulls away. But that's why college basketball is so exciting, because the parity is just perfect for the viewership. And I just love college basketball. Love it.
Yeah, we do have a comment coming in from the Sports Talk with JR. He says the Dodgers are going to win the World Series. They're going to go back to back.
Well, I appreciate the comment. I don't think that's a reach. I mean, if you look at it, that roster is amazing, and yes, they should win it. But remember, the past 10 years, we've always talked about the Dodgers being one of the favorites to win it, and out of that, they won 1 World Series, and that was last year, beating the Yankees. So
I don't know. I think it's probably going to have to agree with Sports Talk with JR. I think I'm going to have to agree. I think there is a possibility. There's likelihood we could see the double championship back-to-back happen. I think.
No question. No question.
I don't know if I can name another team right now. I mean, I would say the Yankees, but we're worried about facial hair. I would say the Mets, but we're worried about giving out cars to people within Florida because we just got a number 22. But that's a different argument for a different day.
Okay. All right. Anyway, so college basketball is great. Loving it. And just let's talk about the NBA just real quick for a second, because one of the faces of this league now has been Victor Wembanyama, right?
Yes.
The kid is amazing, by the way. I mean,
yes.
if you haven't,
not in the All-Star game though.
I know, but I don't watch I don't watch a lot of NBA basketball, but this kid is a freak of nature. He's tall, he blocks shots, he could shoot threes, and that's a big loss for the NBA from a viewership perspective, because this guy is the up and coming star in this league.
Of the NBA.
And that's a big loss, and we don't know where this is going to go, right? I think Chris Bosh had a similar injury with a blood clot situation. This is no joke. So, whether or not, he can get back on track, or is this a career-ending injury or illness, remains to be seen. But that's a big thing in the NBA.
Oh, he will be back for sure. It's things that he's going to be missing the rest of the season. Too bad we didn't get to see him in his prime of the All-Star game, and especially the skills competition. If you watched it, really wasn't the greatest performance by him. I think he got disqualified, if not mistaken. But it's horrible to see him go for the rest of the season. But he's going to come back strong, better than ever, and the Spurs will be moving up. And right now, the Spurs stand at the 12th seed. Right now, they're not in any potential playoff spot, so there was not too many implications on the line for them necessarily. But it is horrible to see them struggle. Eric comments. He says, "Good morning and happy Saturday." Good morning, Eric. Thanks for commenting. Anybody who's wishing to comment, please do so now and whenever throughout the whole show on YouTube.
Hey, Eric. Good morning. Thank you. Loyal listener from Westchester, Pennsylvania. That's our first comment was from Martin Klein, who's also a Philadelphia guy. So I don't know what his thoughts are on the whether the Phillies have a chance, but
Oh well,
I
that's
just hope the Yankees don't let the grooming thing get get as bad as it looks for the Phillies. They look like the Savannah Bananas if you do.
well. I mean, we could talk about
Okay.
Savannah Bananas another day. But another NBA news that happened this week: the NBA suspended Milwaukee Bucks by Portis for 25 games after violating the anti-drug policy. That was
Mm.
pretty big.
When you think about the Milwaukee Bucks and where they were with Giannis, and they won that their NBA championship, what, 3 seasons ago, I guess.
Yes.
You would have thought that this was a team that would have been repeating and so forth, but the parity in the NBA is up there with college basketball. So there's no guarantee, there's no dynasties right now in the NBA, and that's
Right.
because I thought the Bucks would have won multiple ones by now, and they've only won the one, and I don't see them winning the championship this year either. So
Well, yeah. We'll see what happens though.
yeah, good stuff, Eli.
Let's go to some random points. I think it's
Yep,
that time.
and that's of course sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut, a loyal supporter of our show since day one, and we send our
Absolutely.
best to the president of Lynch Toyota, Mike Lynch, who's actually a dear friend of mine, by the way. So.
Absolutely.
All right, Eli, I got a slew of random points that we'll talk about.
So do I. So let's get to it.
All right. So first and foremost, I know this isn't necessarily a topic we talk a lot about, but in auto racing, right, the Daytona 500, that's kind of like
Yeah.
the Super Bowl of car racing, and it was won by William Bryan.
For the second
Only
straight
the
year.
only the fifth guy to win it back to back years. So
Yeah.
terrible weather, and it was a lot of crashes, and it was
Oh yeah.
a tough win. But that was,
He did it.
and I tell people, I don't watch a lot of auto racing, but I do watch some of the Daytona 500. And,
This is
I
interesting.
remember, the last time, I think the Daytona 500 was relevant to me. I was watching it, and that was the day in 2001 that Dale Earnhardt crashed and died on the track. That was a sad moment, but that stuff is going to happen in
Yeah.
car racing. But yeah, it was a good
I
race.
watched he was on Live with Kelly and Mark the other day. I was watching their show while I was home sick. He was on Tuesday's show. A really good interview with them, and he was telling me how heavy the trophy is. I mean, it was on the table and stuff. It was so huge, that trophy. The only thing that he complained about was that it wasn't like a cooler that you could open up and put like beer cans inside. That was the one thing he did complain about, because it's so huge, the trophy. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And you
Yeah.
can't put stuff in it. I mean, but it's a really nice trophy, and it was a great interview. He was on Live with Kelly Mark. I think you could see the clips on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, and then kind of the novelty in sports, instead of popping champagne like they do in all the other
Milk.
sports, they drink milk. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Hmm.
Couple
Chocolate
other
milk would
quick
have to
things.
be for me. I don't know about regular milk.
Yeah, yeah. I got a couple other quick things I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
I saw this interesting fact: the pitchers that are in the Hall of Fame that have more strikeouts than innings pitched. And there's only 4 players that have accomplished that feat: Nolan Ryan, Sandy Koufax, Randy Johnson, and Pedro Martinez. So that's an elite little club right there. So, I mean, we talked about it before. There's a special on Netflix, maybe
Yeah.
called about Nolan Ryan. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's great.
Yeah.
So that's
Really good.
pretty elite company right there. And also, Eli, so we talked last week about Eli Manning not getting in the Hall of Fame, and there is, I saw the list of players that are going to be eligible, first time eligible players for the 2026 Hall of Fame, and I looked at the list, and I think they're all going into the Hall of Fame. Drew Brees, I don't think anyone would have a
Yeah. No
problem with Drew
question.
Brees
Yeah.
getting into the Hall, right? Larry Fitzgerald, wide receiver for the Cardinals, 100%.
Yeah.
Great player, decent guy. Jason Witten, tight end for the Cowboys. I think he has the most receptions of
Yeah,
any tight
no
end in
problem.
history.
Yeah,
He's going to the Hall of Fame. And probably Frank Gore. Believe it or not, most people, I could ask them, who's the third all-time leading rusher in the NFL? Nobody would say
everybody
Frank
guessing.
Gore. Um,
Right.
did he have a career like Emmitt Smith and Walter Payton and Earl Campbell and those guys? No.
No.
But from a perseverance perspective, he played a long time and he's third on the list. So, and the one guy that I wonder whether he's going to get in, or is this going to be another um, situation with Eli Manning and Philip Rivers. If you look at Philip Rivers, his numbers certainly qualify him, but he never won the big game like Eli Manning. And this was
Yes.
they were drafted, Giants drafted Rivers and the Chargers drafted Manning, and they swapped the quarterbacks, and the Giants got 2 Super Bowls. So if Philip Rivers doesn't get in on the first ballot, he will eventually, like Eli, get in the Hall of Fame. Love for people to let me know whether or not
Yeah.
he's a first-year guy. I don't know if he is.
Yeah. Andrew comments quickly. He
Also
says,
from
"Good
the
morning,
NFL,
guys."
one other quick note.
Yeah, it was Andrew. He
Hello,
commented,
Andrew.
"Good morning.
To you too.
Thank you for watching."
Yep. So from the NFL perspective, also, Zach Martin announced his retirement, and
Yes.
I vividly remember draft day, and I was hoping the Giants drafted him out of Notre Dame, and they didn't. He went on; he's going to the Hall of Fame for sure, and
Yeah.
he's only 34 years old, but the body does
Does some stuff to you when you're in that type of
it
position
does,
in the
yeah.
NFL.
But I
Yeah.
always admired Zach Martin, and guy never missed any games. He was awesome. That's a big retirement for the NFL. Also, quick note, and we've talked a lot about this, Eli, with the whole CTE situation, and we know it's more prevalent in the National Football League, but it's also prevalent in the National Hockey League. And it just came out that Bobby Hull, one of the all-time greats in NHL history, actually suffered from CTE. I mean, it was much more physical back then. They didn't wear helmets and so forth, so it's not a surprise.
Right.
But when you hear about something like that, it's not just football. I mean, hockey is a bang against the wall type of sport, and I'm surprised we haven't focused more on how many players from the NHL had CTE, like we are aware of with the National Football League. Bobby Hull was just a great player. His nickname was the Golden Jet, and of course, his son came on, and like I said, I believe in genes, right? Bobby Hull was a great player.
Ooh, yeah.
His son Brett was just a great player as well. So wanted to bring that up. And one other quick thing before. Oh, now one other one I wanted to bring up. I'm a golf guy. You know that, right? I don't get this whole TGL thing. I can't watch. I can't watch 30 seconds of it. I don't even understand why this is actually getting viewership. I don't understand it.
I hate to say it, I don't watch it either, but people are liking it. They
I
like the
get
virtual
it.
reality in it. They like the aspect.
I know.
And
hey,
you know what?
I don't.
You can't. There's no weather issues. It's indoors.
Yeah, you never get rained out. No rain
Never get
checks
rained out.
there. Sure. All right, Eli. I think you have some. I
Yes.
know we're going to talk a little bit about Saturday Night Live.
Yes.
And
We'll get to
the
the entertainment segment. The entertainment segment. We'll talk about our Saturday Night Live. But
Right.
first, we'll get to some random points. We don't usually talk about politics, but when it involves sports in a good way, we're going to bring it up. This week, President Donald Trump announced that 3 athletes of Kobe Bryant, Muhammad Ali, and Martin Luther King Jr. will each be getting a statue, which will be placed in the National Garden of American Heroes. He announced this week. The Chargers are set to be the home team in the Week 1 NFL Brazil game on Friday in Week 1. A Delta plane crashed and was flipped upside down in Toronto this week. Thankfully, all passengers and crew survived. and each were compensated with $30,000, no strings attached. Some did face minor injuries, but it was an incredible sight to see that the plane flipped over, and thankfully nobody died, which was incredible to
Yeah,
see.
that's kind of like the Sully Sullenberger thing, right?
Yeah, but the plane upside down, ooh, that's rough.
Yeah, no, that
Like
was tough.
sitting in your seat, like, oh man, I would never want to imagine that. No,
I
but
don't know
glad
why
everybody
that
survived.
plane was even cleared to land. If you looked at the airport, they were
It
landing
was
on
snow
snow.
everywhere.
I know.
Snow everywhere, and the winds were bad, they said. It's incredible.
Yep.
The final note was if you've been to Philadelphia, you've probably seen the old SS United States ship. If you don't know what that is, it was the fastest passenger liner ever built, crossing the Atlantic in 3 days and 10 hours. It carried multiple presidents as well. Well, it finally departed Philadelphia this week after rotting away and becoming a toxic hazard to the area. The ship is now off to Mobile, Alabama, where it will go to get repairs before becoming the largest artificial reef off the Florida coast.
Wow, that's interesting. I know Morty Klein, sent us a comment at the beginning of the show, is well aware of that, being from Philadelphia. So
Yeah.
good note.
All right. And now we're going to talk about some Saturday Night Live in the entertainment and photo segment,
Okay.
sponsored by Vital Selections. Scan the QR code now to learn more. Plus, we got some movie recommendations and more, but let's talk about it. Saturday Night Live and the 50th. We have a comment coming in first. We'll get to that comment first, and then we'll get to the 50th. The comment
Yep.
was, what do you all think about James Gladstone being hired as the Jacksonville Jaguars GM?
Ah, I mean, the Jaguars got a lot of work
They got a lot
to
of work to
do.
do.
Yeah,
Right.
so
Yeah.
could be
Well,
good.
let's go into Saturday Night Live 50th. The 50th happened last week. Martin Short gets COVID after kissing Maya Rudolph, who had COVID. A couple others were getting COVID. Show was great. The monologue was the best part. Weekend update. Wish they did a joke swap, but other than that, it was a great show.
It was actually. I did watch it. Like I said, I mean, we're from different generations, obviously, but I
Yes.
remember when the show first started. It's hard to believe it's been 50 years. But I did notice a couple of things couple of guys that weren't there, and I'm not sure why, unless I missed the last 45 minutes of it. Some notable absentee guys was Dana Carvey.
Yep.
I don't know why he wasn't there. Dan Aykroyd, one of the original members of the Saturday Night Live team, he wasn't there. Mike Myers. I mean, where was Mike Myers on this?
The legend.
I wonder if they had fallings out with Lorne Michaels or something. I mean, because those guys were
I don't know.
staples of the show. I don't.
Something
And
happened, but yeah.
one of my all-time favorite guys on Saturday Night Live, notable absentee, obviously, because he passed away about 2 years ago, was Norm Macdonald. It was always you brought up Weekend Update. When
Yeah.
you think of Weekend Update and you think of
You
Saturday
think
Night
of
Live,
Norman
you think
Donald.
of Norm. And
Yeah.
big loss.
But it was Saturday Night Live though. That was one heck of a show.
You
The
bet.
segments were great. The monologue was hilarious. It was
Yep.
a great show. And I mean, these sketches on SNL are getting better and better. I mean, the best one from last season, Beavis and Butthead, that was just hilarious
Great.
if you've seen it. And
Yep.
now when you have Maya crying and everybody laughing, it was awesome. I mean,
It
that's what
was awesome.
truly makes Saturday Night Live so special.
Hard to believe 50 years has gone by, actually.
Yeah.
Actually, last week, Eli, they broadcast the first Saturday Night
Saturday Night
Live
Live ever,
episode,
yes.
hosted by
And now it's
George
available on
Carlin.
YouTube if you missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some other TV picks that I'm going to bring up for my little segment for the week.
Okay.
NBC airs 3 new shows on Sunday, starting with The Americas, a 2-hour special with Tom Hanks. He narrates about animals and nature. Followed
Always
by
cool.
Suits LA, its series premiere, and Grosse Pointe Garden Society at 10 o'clock. All 3 brand new shows. First episodes air tomorrow on NBC. And the 10,000th episode of The Price is Right airs on Wednesday, February 26th. The 10,000 episode that includes the Bob Barker era. It'll be Drew Carey's 3,269th show.
Wow. You got that covered very well.
Yeah. And the my recommendation for the week is called the new National Geographic documentary called Magic of Disney Lookout Key at Lighthouse Point. It's now available on Disney Plus. I watched that last night. Really good documentary. Talks about wildlife and nature, learning about the Bahamian culture. Doesn't talk mainly about Disney's commitment to the island and stuff, but it talks more about the culture, the animals, and the wildlife. Really good documentary. So if you're into that, you can check that out over on Disney Plus.
Okay. And I have a movie recommendation for the week. I hadn't seen it in a while, and it's one of those movies that it's kind of so silly and so outrageous, like, but it makes it great. And it was
Yeah.
True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was, I don't know. Have you ever seen True Lies, Eli?
No.
Check it out. It's
Never.
really
Okay.
good. It's really, really good.
And we
It's
do have
funny. It's action packed, and it was, like I said, it's so silly that it's great. It's so silly
yeah.
that it's great.
We do have one more comment from Sports Talk with JR. He says, and also, what are your thoughts on Tony Bocelli being hired as an executive vice president of football operations for the Jaguars?
Well, I'll tell you, JR, what I think. First of all, Tony Bocelli was one of the greatest offensive linemen in the game. He's a Hall of Famer. And when you bring those kind of people back, I think it's great for the organization. And like I said, maybe a lot of people don't know who Tony Bocelli was, but he was 100% a Hall of Famer. And I think that's good. Obviously, JR is a Jacksonville Jaguar fan, I would assume. But definitely,
Yeah.
It's good when you bring back players that meant something to your franchise. I think it's great.
Absolutely.
All right, Eli. So we also have some pictures that I
Yes, we
wanted to
do.
share, right?
We'll
So
start off with
on
this.
the right hand side of your screen, that's my grandson Logan, who turned 11 years old. Hard to believe. I've been talking about him, putting up his pictures for a while. He's had his little bowling thing there. And this kid is such a good athlete. He's probably going to bowl a 300 game at some point in his life. Also, by the way, there he is again. They won their playoff game last night in a thriller. So he's, like I said, he's getting ready for baseball coming soon. But right now it's basketball. And happy birthday to my dear
Well,
Logan.
happy birthday. And now
The big
we
11.
have some adoption news. You can
Okay.
adopt.
And this is going to tie into something. So one of our loyal listeners, Alvin DeVera, I wanted to give a shout out because this was 2 years ago. My little brother, who's the co-host of the show, fell ill, and the team at St. Joseph University Hospital in Patterson, in particular the nursing team, were just amazingly compassionate and just wonderful people. And I just wanted to give a shout out to all the nurses
Absolutely.
at there, and Alvin, who's a loyal listener of the show. I just wanted to bring that up because it was kind of a milestone, and my brother's doing much better, and things are getting well. And I truly believe without the care that he received there, I don't think he'd be as far along as he is. So shout out to them. And so
Now
this little puppy, right? And this puppy is also up for adoption. So it's a mini schnauzer, a female mini schnauzer, and he's looking for a home. So if you're interested, please reach out. And the number is on our screen, 862-571-7334. Ask for Nathalia. It's a cute little dog. The thing fits in the palm of your hand. So if you're into that,
you can reach out.
Give Nathalia a call. And again, thanks to the staff over there at St. Joseph Hospital.
Fantastic. Now, 1 second, I'll get that off for you. And here we go. Now we do have some notable passings for us. Unfortunately, we have to bring up.
Okay. I got a few that I wanted to bring up.
Yes,
Let's stick with the theme of, right? We posted a potential adoptive puppy. Also, Canine Hurricane. And people say, who's that?
Yeah.
Well, Canine Hurricane is the most decorated canine in the history of the United States. And he passed away at the age of 16, which is remarkable on itself. But he did a lot of things. He was a Belgian Malinois dog, which I didn't know anything about. But when you think about, you talk about dogs and being man's best friend. Well, this dog, won award after award, medals and honors because, people minimize the impact that canines had in the war and so forth, and certainly World War II. So we wanted to make sure we noted that. Also, I'm a big Civil War guy, Eli, as well. Mort Kunstler passed away, and he had to be in his 80s. I don't exactly have the date, but he's an artist that painted some just spectacular pictures of the Civil War. And if you go online, you can look. You'll probably see some pictures that you've noticed, and that's some of his work. And he passed away this week.
Yeah.
Also, Mike Collier. And Mike Collier, 71 years old, was on the Pittsburgh Steelers Super Bowl 10 winning team. Running back. I know people think of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, it was Franco Harris and Rocky Bleier. But Mike Collier was also a player and running back on that team. He passed away. And also, when we're talking about a lot of hockey today, Mike Lang, who was 76 years old, and he was the voice of the Pittsburgh Penguins for many, many years, and just, Hall of Fame broadcaster. And he passed away. So we wanted to send our thoughts out to the NHL, because you lose a guy that's been part of your landscape for many years. He passed away. So rest in peace.
Absolutely. I want to get to a comment real quick before I get into notable passings. Sports Talk with JR says he believes that Fred Taylor should have got in. Come on, man. Why did they disrespect the Jaguars? His Jaguars.
Well,
Yeah.
Listen, I don't think I'd have a problem with Fred Taylor. The only question I would have was Fred Taylor. Was he sustainable? Did he have a long career, like, let's say, an Emmitt Smith or a Walter Payton? He was a great running back, no question, and he was a key to that Jaguars team. But Hall of Fame, I would have to look at the numbers and say, but I remember him well. Remember him playing. He was a great player. I just don't know Hall of Fame, JR. Just being honest here.
Yeah. All right. Well, here are my notable passings for the week. Valletta Wallace, mother of the late rapper Notorious Big, died at the age of 78 on Friday. Paquita La de Barrio, a legendary Mexican singer, has died at the age of 77. If you heard of her music, you may have recognized her name. And finally, the creator of Nutella, Francesco Ravella, died at the age of 97 on Valentine's Day. They announced that just shortly after our show aired on Saturday, but he died. Creator of Nutella. I've had Nutella chocolate, believe it or not. I have not had a Pop-Tart, though.
I was just going to say, the funny thing, you just took it right out of my mouth. Eli's never had a Pop-Tart, and I've never had Nutella, so I don't know.
Wow.
Never tasted it.
Okay.
Never
Are you allergic to like peanuts or anything like that? Because I know that's
nope.
Okay. All right.
Just never had it.
All right, Jim. Well, looks like we know we have to have a snack segment next week. I'll buy the Pop-Tarts. You get the Nutella and some strawberries or something. Wow. Okay.
Well, listen, this was a really packed show.
Great show.
We had a lot of stuff to talk about, and again, so like I said, apologies for the technical issues. I think we were all good this week, and again, we thank our loyal listeners. And like I said, we put the number back on your screen. Send us comments at sportswithmono@gmail.com. And like I said, I hope that little puppy finds a home. So
absolutely.
Eli,
we had a great show.
Feeling better?
Yeah, I'm doing better. And we're gonna have a great show next week at 10 o'clock, same time, same place, right here on YouTube.
Yep. I'm gonna try to make something happen. I'm not gonna advertise it because I don't know if it's gonna happen, but I'm going somewhere after the show to try to meet somebody. And if I do, we'll have a picture next week. So all right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And Eli, have a great week. We'll see you guys next week.
All right, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.